guys, so I am currently preparing to head home to Rwanda. I've had a wonderful stay in the UK, really nice seeing all my family and eating too much, drinking too much, going off on nice country walks, but it is now time to head home, and in order to do that I have had to renew my passport. So all of my life, since my very first passport aged, I guess 16, I have always had a red European passport. I've got loads of stamps in here, lots of stamps and visas and lots of, most of my past 10 years of life and living in Rwanda and travelling abroad for work and fun. And so it's kind of the end of an era here, because not only is my new passport blue, so it's a different colour, it's no longer part of the EU, so, I don't get unlimited travel within Europe, which is crap. That sucks really badly. And also, it's a different monarch. It's His Britannic Majesty instead of her, because Queen Elizabeth died. Also, I've noticed on the back, and I don't know if you'll be able to see this, if it catches the light maybe, but there's a really nice motif on the back which shows the national flowers of each of the different countries in the United Kingdom. So we've got the rose of England, the thistle of Scotland, the shamrock of Ireland, and the daffodil of Wales. So it's a really nice motif, and I noticed the old ones, the European ones, don't have that. But the reason I'm making this video is, as the title suggests, I opted for the next day passport service just because I wanted everything done and dusted. I didn't want any sort of complications or delays, and I definitely did not want to let this passport out of my sight, because my old passport has still got an active Rwandan visa in it, and I need that to get back into the country. So I needed to leave the passport office with both my new passport and my old one. It just seemed like the safest way to do that. Now, there are currently 3 separate ways to get the passport. There's the standard application, there's the 1 week application, and there's the next day application. And just to explain the differences, the standard application costs currently, so I've just got to look it up, £88.50 if you apply online, and you submit all of your paperwork and everything online, and it should be processed within 3 weeks. So, providing that you're not travelling until, a few months away and you're planning your trip well in advance, then you can do that. And £88.50 is what you pay, unless, there's a nasty little bit to this, unless you're applying with a paper form. And then you're paying £100 for processing. And I'm going to just say that I think that's a really sucky thing to do. I mean, what if you're an older person who is not that kind of comfortable with technology, you don't really know how to complete the online forms, and maybe you can't adjust your photograph to submit your photograph online, because that bit is tricky. Why should you be penalised for not being able to submit online or not wanting to submit online? I think that sucks. Just letting you know, passport office, that's not cool. So the next option is for a 1 week delivery service, and with this it's kind of the same application process. You go online, you fill out the form, you attach your picture, you send that off, and then you'll be asked to go for an interview, and the interview will be a couple of days after you've submitted your application, and within 1 week of that they will send you your new passport. With the standard application process, I don't think it's mandatory to go for an interview unless it's your first ever passport, and then they can ask you to come in. If they suspect there's anything amiss, you can be asked to go for a face-to-face interview just to confirm it's definitely you before they issue the passport. With the fast track services, you do have to go in person. And just to explain that the interviews are held at interview offices, and those offices are in Belfast, Durham, Glasgow, Liverpool, London, Newport and Peterborough. So Peterborough was the closest one to me. But if you're going for a fast track service, you are going to have to go and present yourself at one of those offices. So the difference with the 1 week fast track application is, firstly, it costs a lot more. So instead of about 88 quid, you're looking for 166 quid. Oh, £166.50 to be exact, or £178.50 if you ask for the larger passport. Now, I have, and you can hardly see the difference here, but a standard passport, so this one, is 34 pages, and a larger passport is 54. And you get one of these if you're likely to travel a lot. Now, I don't think that in the next 10 years I am going to use up more than 34 pages, but it was getting a bit close towards the end there. If I'd gone on a couple more trips, it could have got tricky. So I just wanted the peace of mind of knowing that I'm not going to run out of pages. That's the 1 week service. And people often get confused between the 1 week service and the next day's service, because I met a gentleman on the day that I went to collect my passport who turned up for his interview thinking he would get his passport on the same day, but instead of booking for the 1 day or same day passport, he'd actually booked the 1 week passport. So that wasn't the case. He had his interview and then he had to go away, and he would receive his passport within a week. So just be careful about which one you're booking here. If it is urgent, get the same day. If you don't mind waiting for 1 week, get the 1 week. So all that said, my passport was the same day, 54-page passport collection. And what happened was, same as before, go online, fill out the form, attach your picture, send it off, and then you will get an interview. It says next day, but it's not within 24 hours. So it's not immediately the next day. So I applied on this day and skipped a day, and my interview was the day after the day that I'd applied. So it wasn't within a 24-hour period, which sort of same day kind of makes you think, but it was within 2 days of applying, if that makes sense. So drove into Peterborough. My mum parked the car and was gonna go and find a cafe or something, or go for a walk along the canal whilst waiting for me to have my appointment. She barely got a chance. She barely got a chance to park the car, and I was done. I went into Peterborough passport office, and I was expecting there to be quite a rigorous interview. You know, who are you? When were you born? Where were you born? Where do you live? What's your job? Blah, blah, blah. I was expecting to be interrogated. I don't know. I just assumed that of like, administrative processes by the government, that they're going to be really hardcore, and it was not at all. And I think the reason it was not at all is because this is like my third passport, fourth passport, third passport. This is, I've had passports in the past, so they knew who I was because they have it all on register. I'm sure that they can see every country I've ever been to on whichever dates if they wanted to, because it's all attached to my passport. So I just walked into the passport office. You're asked to turn your phone off. They search your bag, put it through a little beepity beep machine, security check machine, and then you just sit down with a ticket number, and the ticket number was really long, and there's a screen, and my number wasn't even on that screen. So I was like thinking, oh yeah, that's going to take a really long time, isn't it? And I literally sat down when they called my ticket number, because I think there's a special side desk which is just for same day collection. So even though I thought it was going to take a really long time, it really didn't. I sat down, my number was called, I went to the desk, and all they asked me was my name, where I was born, and my date of birth, and that was all they wanted to know. And then they asked me to check the new details had been printed correctly. They took a chunk out of my old passport, so you can always have your old passport back, but in the UK they just take a corner off it to show that it's now a void passport, because you can't travel on a damaged passport, so they do that to show that it's void. And then they gave me both of them back, and I walked out, and I was there for possibly 10 minutes. That's about it. It does say on the website that each appointment will last for 10 minutes. But when somebody says that, you don't really believe them, do you? You're like, 10 minutes for half an hour kind of thing. No, it was seriously 10 minutes. I went in, out, done. All the staff were really friendly, very smiley, very helpful, and I was in and out and done. And I literally bumped into my mum as she was walking out of the car park. So yeah, I have to say I was really impressed. But for the same day service, you pay. It's expensive. So it's called the 1-day premium service, and it does actually say here that the appointment will be 2 days after you apply, so that makes sense. Although it says 1-day premium, it doesn't mean you get it within 24 hours. The appointment will be in 2 days after you apply. So there's a full day in the middle, but you know, that's still super fast. And the cost of it is £207.50 or £219.50, or you know, 220 quid for the 54 page, so the larger sized one. So we are not talking small change here. It's bloody expensive when you consider that a standard passport is only about 88 quid. But if you need the peace of mind of walking in and walking out with, you know, all of your passports in hand and getting it immediately, and there being no delays and no chance for anything to get lost or, you know, anything to get delayed, it's the way to go. That was my experience. Was it worth the money? I'd say so, yes, for peace of mind and speed of it. It is a bit annoying having to go all the way into somewhere and, you know, say, hello, I'm Marion, can I have my passport? But I kind of understand why they do it. And if this is not your first passport, so if you've had passports in the past, then it's literally going to be, what's your name? Where were you born? When were you born? Here you go. Good luck. You know, that's it. So yeah, that's a very painless process.